What's up, beautiful people? Um, I have a few things on my mind. First, I'd like to talk about something that is very important to me. Actually, one of my favorite subjects. It is the subject of history. Now, the definition of history, from what I've come to believe, is history is not about facts. History is about context and the context of what is being told being the story that is being told by the person that is trying to explain the context of the story, whatever that may be. Now, every story told is subject to interpretation by the interpreter. To put it simply, there have been many things throughout history that have been changed throughout the years to suit many factions of power, governmental factions, specific families, specific secret orders. During Hitler's Nazi occupation, one of the things that the Nazis actually did was the first thing that they would do when they would go to a specific town is they would go to the library. Why would they go to the library? That's the first place they would attack, because they knew if you control the books, if you control history, you control the knowledge, you control the future, you control what everyone thinks. This is a very powerful thing. So the Nazis actually knew this, because the Nazis actually have no history, because all of their history is borrowed, mixed in, and stolen with other cultures that were around before them. If you study the history of the swastika, it goes back to the Hindus and their beliefs with the multi-god system and all of this. If you study history, you'll understand that many so-called evil cultures and powers that be have no real history. All they've done was taken positions of power and then wiped away the truth very, very ruthlessly and very cruel. Now let me bring you to another point in so-called history. Here's another story that I was blessed to hear from a Hebrew friend of mine when I was growing up, because I like to talk about history and I like to talk about ancient stories. Now, this is a story about the Druids and the first doctors. For all of you that don't know, historically speaking, stories passed down, the first doctors were women. They were a group of druids that had nothing to do with men, and they were all virgins, and they all got their healings and the way they healed people from the earth. They were holistic doctors. So when the Roman Catholic Church came to power throughout Europe, what they actually did was they went around to all the factions that the people looked up to and that the people listened to and that the people actually needed, and they dismantled them ruthlessly. Now, these sect of Druid women, they were very important throughout history because, no one wants to die. Everyone wants to be healed. Everyone needs a doctor, so they were the first doctors that healed people off natural herbs and natural remedies, just like the Moors, just like the Indians. There was no modern medicine as we know of it. And if you study modern medicine today, all the modern medicine, especially antibiotics and psychotropic drugs that so-called cure your mental illnesses, all of this is based on the Nazi science that was brought over to America. And then these pills and this so-called science was patented under America and then re-given back to Americans. If you've ever read 1984, you'll understand what's going on right now. So then when you get into what the church actually did to these first doctors, these druids, these virgin women, this is what they did. Now, before I tell you this, I'd like to have you understand one more important fact. The church, the Roman Catholic Church, the most powerful church in the world, what they actually did was two major things which people don't understand. I'm going to make you or help you understand some facts. Now, the reason why, priests nowadays don't have wives doesn't have anything to do with their communion or celibacy to who we know as Christ. It doesn't have anything to do with that entity, that spirit, that energy. The reason why priests don't have wives, Roman Catholic priests don't have wives, is because when they took on wives and children back then, those sanctions and those factions of the church would give these priests land, lots of money, and then this land and money would go to the family after the priest would die. And then the church started realizing they were losing too much power and property and money due to these families getting bigger and bigger. So they banned priests from actually getting married or having wives. So then you get into what they actually did to the Druid nuns and where the virgin nuns came from. Well, the church dismantled the Druids, the doctors, the first doctors, the female doctors, the sect of female doctors, and they took their sacred scrolls, their teachings that have been around for hundreds and hundreds of years, based on holistic healings and how they would help their other sisters and brothers stay healthy and heal. Not by drilling heads in your skull and doing all that sick Nazi scientist stuff that is based on psychology even today. Like I said, these women were holistic healers. So they took these scrolls, banned them from anyone seeing them. They dismantled, well, I'll be truthful, they killed most of the nuns, and the ones that they didn't kill, they took them in to teach them, to teach their men, to teach their priests what they did holistically. So some of these priests, so-called, went around, doing miracles and stuff based on these Druid teachings. Now, if you understand what an alchemist is, when you get into alchemy, when you get into magic, when you get into dark magic, when you get into white magic, everyone knows that the first sorcerer, okay, and you can look this up on the net, when they give you levels of alchemists, the first alchemist is priest. And then you get into warlocks, witches, sorcerers. It goes up to high levels. But the first alchemist is a priest. So the priest got this, first degree or whatever of alchemy from the Druid nuns, the doctors, the healers, the virgin women. See, most people don't like the truth about history, because then when you actually study and understand where it all comes from and what's been changed and what's been hidden and lied to and the big deception, then the truth becomes more apparent. So then when you get into what we have today in 2013, when the Nazis were brought over to the United States under Operation Paperclip. You understand the big picture of Project Phoenix. You understand the big picture of Freemasonry. You understand the big picture of what the face of the beast actually is. In 2013, they have patented their dark arts, their witchcraft, under science. They call it science today. When Nikola Tesla died, these group of witches, warlocks, Nazi Freemasons were so quick to go after Nikola Tesla's science, to pervert it. Well, Nikola Tesla had a death ray, and thought he was smart about what he did, because he divided the plans up to China, Russia, and America. Rather than the plans fall into one country, he figured he'd separate it to the three most powerful countries and have all these countries work together to figure out this technology. Well, what they've actually done is they did work together to figure out the technology, and they all developed their own secret, silent weapons plan. United States, these plans started under Project Phoenix, H.A.A.R.P, and the Nazis and the Chinese have different names for their silent weapon programs. Now, the technologies, the evil witchcraft, the evil science, the dark arts that's based on Nikola Tesla's science, the perversion of one of the greatest men in the world, because he actually devised a system where we could get free electricity from everybody, from everything. We wouldn't even have to have anything plugged in. But the government couldn't have that free electricity. No way. Lose control. So this Nazi science that today we have an intermixture of witchcraft and science that is so far beyond your capability of understanding. When people explain it to you, you just don't want to believe it. So these scientists have access to microchips. They have access to microbiotic organisms. They have access to your CAT scan, and what I mean by your CAT scan is the reading of your brain wave, the reading of your personal frequency. Through H.A.A.R.P technology, through microwave technology, through alpha wave technology, through EMF, that's electronic micro frequencies, they can do just about anything. These modern day witches, these modern day Freemasons, these modern day practitioners of the real dark arts. Now, when I explain this science to you, people don't want to really admit to the horrific truth of what they've actually been doing to the American public. I strongly urge you to take yourself to YouTube, and I will post the links under this video, to Project Phoenix, to Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars, where the original document that states about these weapons, this lady reads it from 1970s. You know? So these weapons, this dark arts, this Nazi science has been around since the 70s. It's 2013. You cannot fathom how far this evil science has progressed on the American public in secret, on the Russian public in secret, on the Chinese public in secret. Silent weapons for quiet wars. So, per se, I'm a Nazi alchemist / scientist Freemason. I have free range to run experiments on humans sanctioned by the American government under the highest, most secret disclosure. Now, the reason why I know this to be factual is because Operation Paperclip is under the highest government protection of the CIA. They don't want the American public to know who these Nazis are that they brought over to the United States because of their science, because of all the science and experimentations and witchcraft that they did on the Hebrews and their own Germans in Germany. All the things that they found out about cloning and the secrets of the DNA and the mind and all the stuff that's based on psychology. Now let me break something down to you about psychology that I like to tell my psychologists. Psychology is the study of the human mind and the study of how human emotions and how we react to certain situations and when we're exposed to specific things, entities, energies, etc. So this study of psychology was based on a specific group of people. Now I'm going to actually prove with this statement that we have actually outgrown what we know as psychology. All psychology is bullshit because of this statement, and this is what I believe. Now, through my hypothesis, and it doesn't take a genius to figure this out. Now, how old is the basis of psychology? It predates Nazism, okay? So, this study of the human mind and the psyche is based on the study of Germans. Is based on the study of how Germans, Caucasians react to a specific situation when they're exposed to, say, drilling holes in the head. Say they're exposed to being locked up for days and weeks, or being exposed to electroshock therapy. This psychotic torture that is based on what we know as psychology today. It is the practice of human torture. Now, the writings and the teachings that you go to school to learn based off German writers, German scientists, German alchemists, is based on the torture of their own public. And these teachings are very, very old. Now, one fact that I would like to point out to you is, by you listening to me, you're listening to the evolution of the human psyche, the evolution of the human thought, the evolution of the human mind. It's a progression. Psychology has not progressed. They are re-prescribing medication that is based on Nazi science from the Nazi revolution. They are repatenting stuff like old Nazi medication with a new name. Research the history of Haldol and Prolixin and all of these new chemistries they're prescribing to Americas and people all over the world that are claiming to have problems. It was written in the book 1984 what they were going to do. So let me bring you to another fact about 1984 if you think this is, non-factual. 1984, the man that wrote the book wrote it in a specific building. This specific building houses the BBC. He wrote 1984 in the basement of the BBC. BBC, people think it's British Broadcasting Company. No, it is Bush Broadcasting Company, because that's who owns it. look it up. Now, the Bush Broadcasting Company bought this building. Why is it so important to these Nazi alchemists, Freemasons? Because they believe that possessing the belongings of the one who comes up with these revolutionary ideas and concepts gives them power. They're witches. This is what they do. So they take these things and they cast spells within them or on them. This is alchemy. So the Bushes, which are fucking Freemason Nazis, base everything that they do on simply these teachings. So then when you get into the truth of the horrific facts of what they do, what they've done throughout the United States, why they've killed so many Indians to possess their property and land, to build their Freemason temples, Freemason symbols over Nubian Moor land, thinking that they can possess my people and control my people and control their energy and their spirits. They are wrong. They have no power. They're nothing but liars and thieves. And that is it. Their alchemy, their witchcraft, their dark science has no power over you once you see it for what it is. This is why I'm making this video. So then when you get into Silent Weapons and Project Phoenix and the horrific things that these Nazi scientists have even done to American soldiers under the sanctions of the American government, if they will do this to their own soldiers that put their name on the dotted line to protect America under any cost, what do you think they've been doing to the civilians? Do you know about J. Edgar Hoover? Do you know about his cross-dressing fetish? Do you know about the J. Edgar Hoover fat suits that the American public sees in movies like Big Mama? Where the black American public sees it in those plays like, I don't know, I forget the name of the lady, but they're out of Detroit, Big Mama's House. I know these plays very much because my uncle used to work with these group of evil-ass people, Freemasons. He's also lives in Detroit, Kenny Jackson. So, you know, these plays and all of this stuff are sanctioned under a project called Operation Black Desk. Now, Operation Black Desk is simply the study of Afro American culture. There is a nice video on YouTube explaining Operation Black Desk. It's called The Destruction of the Afro American Public. Now, I will also post a link for this video under this video so you can find it. What they do is they actually interview an Afro American who sold out for money to work with Operation Black Desk. Now, the reason why I bring you to J. Edgar Hoover, because when you learn how far the CIA and the American government has gone to obtain the property, the lifestyle, and the livelihood of the Afro-American public, then you will understand what is going on. Please don't bother me, I'm recording.
You're talking too loud.
So then after this, you will understand what they've actually done to the American public and what they've done with the Martin Lawrence fat suits. So Let me explain to you this. The American public are going to be outraged when they actually understand that there are businesses, there are warehouses, there are regimes, there are many suits specifically devoted to these fat suits, where these skinny agents can just go in, get in a fat suit, and it's voice modified so they can sound black. They've already studied how to act black. They come in your home, they take away your friend or your family's secret, then they replace them, and then when you want to talk about it, they call you crazy, or your friends say, oh, no way, this couldn't happen. We're talking about the same Nazis and the same government that did this during the days of Stalin, during the days of Hitler, when Hitler was known to go in to specific families, and if they didn't like you, if they didn't like what you did, they'd erase you. And what I mean by erase you is erase any recognition of you by painting over pictures, by threatening people. If they say anything about this family or this or this or this, they kill you and do the same to your family, and nobody would say anything or act like they remember you. These were Nazi tactics. We brought these same people over to the United States, and it's 2010, and mixed all of their science with American science under the full sanctions of the American government. And these motherfuckers are witches that practice dark arts and witchcraft and don't give a fuck about Afro American culture, black culture, Indian culture, Hebrew culture. And then they get the public, whether it be black, Mexican, Indian, to sell out. Now, you will notice that there was an interruption in this conversation, that someone walked in my room and said I was talking too loud. Well, specifically, I'd like to bring you to your attention to this. Because all you government agents, I got a recording of that now. Run a voice analysis on that, and you will be able to break down an electronic signal. Now, when you get into fat suits and what the American government has done, they have warehouses of these suits, and it's an operation under Operation Black Desk. Now, then when you get into the cars that these people have, they're called H.A.A.R.P cars. I brought the public attention to these cars in Paris because they emit microwave low-end frequencies, and this is how they can drive around and target individuals silently with silent weapons. They're called targeted individuals. Now, excuse me for the interruption. Now, I'm bringing the factual facts right to their face in their own house, because many sanctions of European governments know about this. I help expose this in Paris, and these cars can be seen with alpha blue and alpha green. So even when they drive around these cars and when they're off, they can still be seen because they still emit a large amount of microwave energy due to what they do. So these cars have been found, and yes, I have many in this neighborhood. This is why I placed a phone call to hazmat. That's hazardous material. The guys that come in and take out environmental terrorists. Because that is what they are. What's an environmental terrorist? Someone that has weapons that are fucking up the environment, that are causing direct harm to the human race, that can kill you. So when you get into Project Phoenix, Operation Black Death, alchemy, Freemasons, witches, this is what it is. So they came in, did these many tactics on my family, and I was informed about this when I was in Europe, when my girlfriend came up missing. I knew a lot about it. I was shocked when I actually had other international agents asking me if I was involved in it. Did I know about money laundering? Did I know about this? Did I have anything to do with her disappearance? And I looked at them like they're fucking crazy. I love this woman more than anything. I said, them doing this was a message sent directly to me because of what I was doing and what I was exposing in Romania with my friends. Because we were a very tight-knit, highly intelligent group of people that spent a lot of time with everyone we know exposing the truth about 911, me, and what is truly going on in America. In secret. So, let me tell you about this interruption that really doesn't make any sense. I'm talking about Operation Black Death, and my mother, my true mother, she was a civil rights activist. She was the first woman to work in downtown the courthouse in Houston. Her picture is on the wall of the courthouses. She was a civil rights activist. Now let me tell you, I was an environmentalist. My father was the head of Amway because he was the top salesman when they started for many years before the story broke that Amway's products that were supposed to be cleaning the environment, well, they were. But the downfall of Amway was when people found out how toxic the remains were to make these products, they got away from Amway. What I simply mean is, to make products to clean the environment, the leftover material to make these products were 1,000 times more hazardous than any other products on the market that were destroying the environment. So I come from a long line of environmentalists and activists, which should let you know that my family are targeted individuals by the powers that be. Now I'm exposing this right in front of your face, right in front of her face, right in front of all their faces, because the truth is coming out, because the people in Europe know. They've been watching them since before I left 8 years ago, when I was going around trying to tell people what was happening. And one of the things that they don't know is that I did go to the FBI in California. I did speak to FBI agents in California, because when I was homeless in California, I became famous. How did I become famous? By being homeless, sitting outside of the police station, rapping. Sitting outside government facilities, emceeing. Doing what I do best because I had nothing else to do, because I was homeless, hiding out from what they did to my family and how they came into my home under the biggest government disclosure and the biggest government secrecies. No friend would believe me. Nobody would help me. Anytime I tried to speak about this, they were so quick to bring in my government-sanctioned Marine Black Ops brother named Cliff Jackson and take me to a hospital. But the funny thing about these hospitals is, when I'd get around these scientists, these modern-day psychologists, they talk to me. They couldn't believe how intelligent I was. And the major thing that happened on Valentine's Day was this. When I got back from California, after I learned what they did to my brother, I drove back here and I got back to this house a lot sooner than they had planned on me to. And the house was just foul, I'll put it that way. And I ended up going to stay at my sister's. And then they had Cliff and his Black Ops police come pick me up there and take me to a hospital. So they ran tests on me. They found that I was fine. But one of the things that I did is they had one of these fucking agents call me with their voice over coder, voice disguiser recognition shit. Now, I'll never forget this because it was from a hospital in, gosh, what do you call that area? It doesn't matter. It's not important. But it wasn't this area. Now, the doctor, he was Indian. Now, see, I was really smart about this because I wanted to bust him. And I did. Now, here was a voice that sounded like my father on the phone. And any government agent knows about this technology, and it's 2013. The shit's been around since the 80s. Now, the things that I said on the conversation with this motherfucker, who I know is my stepbrother Cliff because I busted him, like this. Just like I just did, again. Now, what I did was I made him lose his cool. What I did was made him angry. What I did was push his buttons and talk about and say things that would specifically make him angry because this technology could not keep up with the aggression alpha wave. So, on the phone, at a hospital, at a mental hospital, where they always record it, and I knew this, you would hear a man sounding like my father with the same accent as me. And I know because people used to call this house and mistake me for my mother and mistake her accent for mine. And that's how you can literally tell the difference. They couldn't tell me and my mother's voice and accent apart a lot of the times when people call here. So I had this motherfucker busted because he got angry because I started talking to him about the real shit. The secret shit. The government shit. The shit that they get paid millions to disclose and hide, and they know if it comes out, guess who's gonna come for you? Your own buddies. Because you know more than they do. And when this happens, what do? They kill their own. It's a process of elimination. So after this conversation on the phone that was recorded, you hear someone going from that accent to having a Detroit accent, but sounding like my father. Now, I went to the doctor and I told him to go and listen to this conversation. And if you find something incredibly strange about it, and I explained to him what he's going to hear, what I did, and if I'm crazy, then he can lock me up. I'll take all the medication he wants, but if I'm right, he'll let me go. 10 minutes later, this doctor brings me in his office, sits me down, and tells me, I want to help you. You told me you're into music, you're a DJ. I have a cousin that has a club in Paris. He can help you. I already called him. I can help you get there. And I said, no, I have things to do. I had to expose this. And this was the day before Valentine's. It's about 9 years ago. So then he let me out. And this was a very significant day for me because on my way home at the bus stop, I met with two black women, two older black women. And they were having a discussion about how the youth is gone and how the youth has no faith in God and how the youth is this and this and this. Well, I spoke with them during my time at the bus station and I totally changed their opinion. After I got back to my house, the powers that be were surprised to see me out. They had a nice little meeting a few hours later. Then on Valentine's, when I contacted my girlfriend in Romania, was trying to figure out how to get to her and how to get out of this, I was in this room where I'm recording now. Cliff, Dana Jackson, Mr. Jackson, and Miss Jackson, these people who I knew were, trying to figure out who was who and who did what and this and this and this. There were gunshots fired in this house, and they fired them at the roof. So what I did is they were talking shit to me. I put all my records in front of the door so they couldn't get in. I went out the window. Then I came back to this house with my friends. And yeah, they were packing guns. Packed a lot of my stuff. And then went to the streets with a few bags and became homeless and never came back. After being homeless and coming back to the house to gather my stuff, Romania, California, it's a whole nother story. Yeah, I was picked up by more government agents. Jamal Kennard, a man who you'll know as Abba, another big gangster, CIA, not Hebrew motherfucker. In California, daughter named Jade, big man in Hollywood, scriptwriter. They all came from me. So these half-ass agents that think they know this and think they know that based on stories that they recorded and they reviewed them, they don't know shit. So to hazmat, all your agents, to Romania, Sediv, and all your agents, secret police, to the Russian Young Guard and the Russian agents, the New Americans, that's what I call them, I want to see that show. And to all the rogue agents, to Mulder, Eric, all of you, bless you, Godspeed. This is for you, and this is the exposure of what they've done. So I've actually contacted a lawyer, George Ramirez. So, George, thank you. This is exposure because they hate it. And once you expose them, puts them in a catch-22. They can't do much. They can't do anything. Walk around and lie and act pissed and slam shit around the house. But little do they need not know, there have been agents watching this house, watching them throw the little microbiotic microchips on the floor, at the house, through the house. We all know what they're doing. Let me explain to you one last thing about Nazi science. It's parasites. GMOs. Okay? This is what they've been doing to me. It's why they set up this house and spent so much money on making it exposed and being adaptable to vibrations, being microwave vibrations. GMOs are filled with parasites. The food is parasitic. They specifically been putting GMOs in my food. Even the food that doesn't have GMOs in it. Gee, I wonder how they get the GMOs in it. Don't have to be a genius to figure that out. So what the GMO actually is, it's a parasite. It's a parasite that was made off aborted fetus DNA. And so basically, they impregnate you with a parasite. And then they shoot it with microwaves because it's based on microbiotic technology, which fuses it to grow. This is why TIs have so many problems and they don't understand it. Then they microchip you with microorganisms that are silicone based. Silicone that is put in the air through chemtrails. Silicone that is put in the air through their little microbiotic chips that they walk around with, that they get from these Nazi scientists. All they have to do is throw them on the wall, throw them on the house, throw them inside the house, and they're already programmed with your CAT scan, your brain frequency. So when these mercury chips are popped, they evaporate into the atmosphere, and the little microorganism goes directly for you up your nose and forms a little responder microscopic chip. So then with the GMO, they're shooting in microwaves through cell phones, through H.A.A.R.P, through cell phone antennas, through H.A.A.R.P cars, whichever they prefer, for the new technology or new messages or new commands to be picked up by the GMO. Then the GMO omits the frequency to your brain, which then that's picked up by the silicone chip, and then the silicone chip re-omits this back into the microbiotic ionosphere, which is picked up, can be picked up by satellites. I mean, little do you know how powerful your own brain is. It's been studied that the brain can transmit a frequency way past Mars in seconds. This is how powerful your mind is. So if they've actually harnessed this technology and perverted it like this, they can pick up your signals, your thoughts, everything that you're thinking, anywhere they want. This is Nazi, modern day witchcraft, monarch, Freemason science. Today, exposed. And no, with your Nazi bitches and agents, you're not going to stop this or disrupt the truth, because this is what they do. I'm talking too loud. Huh? And they say, talk about the truth. Well, this is the truth. Because then when I start to speak the truth, they don't like it and they always try to come stop me and push me. I am Zakaos. They don't like it, there's nothing they can do. It's the truth is the truth. Thank you for your time. God bless you. Get educated. Don't be stupid. It's truthfully sadistic. Hazmat and many government agents are on it. They got recordings, pictures of all of them doing just this. They know about the clones. They know about the fat suits. They know about everything since I came into this house. The thing that they didn't know is how actually they were running this business based off human souls, human thoughts, stealing the ideas of some of the most intelligent, gifted people in the world. It's like this. Have a blessed day and get educated about the Nazi Freemason science, the dark arts, the bullshit alchemists. I'd like to leave you with a saying. My great-great-great-grandmother, rest her soul, R.I.P., was a Haitian, Jamaican, white voodoo witch. French, Jamaican mixed. There's a saying, only a witch can destroy a witch. Maybe there's some truth behind that. I never really believed it, but I do believe in God, and I do believe there are protectors of the light that were sent here to destroy the wicked. And this is who I am. God bless. Peace. The library. Why would they go to the library? That's the first place they would attack. Because they knew if you control the books, if you control history, you control the knowledge, you control the future, you control what everyone thinks. This is a very powerful thing. So the Nazis actually knew this, because the Nazis actually have no history, because all of their history is borrowed, mixed in, and stolen with other cultures that were around before them. If you study the history of the swastika, it goes back to the Hindus and their beliefs with the multi-god system and all of this. If you study history, you'll understand that many so-called evil cultures and powers that be have no real history. All they've done was taken positions of power and then wiped away the truth. Very, very ruthlessly and very cruel. Now let me bring you to another point in so-called history. Here's another story that I was blessed to hear from a Hebrew friend of mine when I was growing up, because I like to talk about history and I like to talk about ancient stories. Now this is a story about the Druids and the first doctors. For all of you that don't know, historically speaking, stories passed down, the first doctors were women. They were a group of Druids that had nothing to do with men, and they were all virgins, and they all got their healings and the way they healed people from the earth. They were holistic doctors. So when the Roman Catholic Church came to power throughout Europe, what they actually did was they went around to all the factions that the people looked up to and that the people listened to and that the people actually needed, and they dismantled them ruthlessly. Now, these sect of Druid women, they were very important throughout history because, I mean, no one wants to die. Everyone wants to be healed. Everyone needs a doctor, so they were the first doctors that healed people off natural herbs and natural remedies, just like the Moors, just like the Indians. There was no modern medicine as we know of it. And if you study modern medicine today, all the modern medicine, especially antibiotics and psychotropic drugs that so-called cure your mental illnesses, all of this is based on the Nazi science that was brought over to America. And then these pills and this so-called science was patented under America and then re-given back to Americans. If you've ever read 1984, you'll understand what's going on right now. So then when you get into what the church actually did to these first doctors, these Druids, these virgin women, this is what they did. Now, before I tell you this, I'd like to have you understand one more important fact. The church, the Roman Catholic Church, the most powerful church in the world, what they actually did was two major things which people don't understand. I'm going to make you or help you understand some facts. Now, the reason why, priests nowadays don't have wives doesn't have anything to do with their communion or celibacy to who we know as Christ. It doesn't have anything to do with that entity, that spirit, that energy. The reason why priests don't have wives, Roman Catholic priests don't have wives, is because when they took on wives and children back then, those sanctions and those factions of the church would give these priests land, lots of money, and then this land and money would go to the family after the priest would die, and then the church started realizing they were losing too much power and property and money due to these families getting bigger and bigger. So they banned priests from actually getting married or having wives. So then you get into what they actually did to the Druid nuns and where the virgin nuns came from. Well, the church dismantled the Druids, the doctors, the first doctors, the female doctors, the sect of female doctors, and they took their sacred scrolls, their teachings that have been around for hundreds and hundreds of years, based on holistic healings and how they would help their other sisters and brothers stay healthy and heal. Not by drilling heads in your skull and doing all that sick Nazi scientist stuff that is based on psychology even today. Like I said, these women were holistic healers. So they took these scrolls, banned them from anyone seeing them. They dismantled, well, I'll be truthful, they killed most of the nuns, and the ones that they didn't kill, they took them in to teach them, to teach their men, to teach their priests what they did. Holistically. So some of these priests, so-called, went around, doing miracles and stuff based on these Druid teachings. What's up, beautiful people? I have a few things on my mind. First, I'd like to talk about something that is very important to me. Actually, one of my favorite subjects. It is the subject of history. Now, the definition of history, from what I've come to believe, is history is not about facts. History is about context, and the context of what is being told being the story that is being told by the person that is trying to explain the context of the story, whatever that may be. Now, every story told is subject to interpretation by the interpreter. To put it simply, there have been many things throughout history that have been changed throughout the years to suit many factions of power, governmental factions, specific families, specific secret orders. During Hitler's Nazi occupation, one of the things that the Nazis actually did was the first thing that they would do when they would go to a specific town is they would go to